Hi and welcome to the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. I'm your host, Gian Avelli, and on the show we uncover the stories, tactics and skills of people doing great things for the planet and turn their experiences into practical advice that you can use to impact your own life and those around you.
The way we make our cuppas is changing. The trusted kettle is under threat. It's old. It needs cleaning of limescale. We're all guilty of boiling far too much water, wasting on average around 50% of the energy required every time we fancy a breakfast brew. This is no new problem. As far back as 2013, an Energy Saving Trust report noted that British households waste a total of £68 million each year when boiling their kettles. It begs the question, how high is this number now, confined as we are to our homes in such close proximity to tea? Berlin-based Heatal is the solution. Faster, quieter and more efficient, it wastes only 6% of the energy it uses. The best kettles in the market to this day still waste around 30% of this non-recyclable energy, making them bad for the environment and especially harmful in the long term. By heating liquid directly in the cup, this self-charging, small, transportable gadget is condensing big ideas and even larger problems into the most convenient and space-saving kitchen appliance you could ever own. Heatal's solution is so new that they're pending 3 world patents, and like many sustainable businesses, their thirst for change goes beyond their product. For each model sold, they plant 50 trees. Eco-campaigners for a greener future, they're bringing science and environment together, brewing up what could replace one of our most trusted and relied upon devices. The team at the boiling point of all this change are keen challengers of the status quo, and each of them are innovators in their own right. Today, I'll be speaking to the co-founder, Vashtang. Can you tell us a bit more about your personal relationship with sustainability? What first drew you to climate issues, and when did you decide to make solving these problems your career?
Yes, of course. Ever since I have had my first child in 2015, I started being more involved with these topics because you start thinking ahead what kind of future and world you want to leave for your children. Now I have 2 boys. And of course, everything you do in life, you normally don't think about whether it's sustainable or not, or what kind of influence it has on, your family, your surrounding, and the world at large. And I've been, playing around with different technologies in the software side, on the hardware side as well, making sure that we can optimize certain processes in life to make them more sustainable. Of course, it comes down to what you define as sustainability in the end. But for me, it's really just having efficient processes that you can repeat over and over without many losses, so you can leave a world that people can enjoy and don't have to clean up after your parents, which is what drove me towards Heatal. And my co-founder David as well, he also has 2 children, and he was thinking about the ways we're heating liquids. I know it's one of the many problems in life, but it's one that hasn't been solved in decades. And we were very excited about this because everybody's doing it every single day in every office and every home. And we're wasting energy with every single cup. And if you look around, there is no solution in the market. If you even wanted to, like if you had a conscience of like, I want to be more sustainable with my liquids, you have no choice but actually burning energy just to, like making a campfire just to make a cup of tea. And we thought it's time, 2021 is time for change and for an alternative solution to that.
So you have a very unique background and experience. You studied acting, worked in the corporate world, and then decided to become an entrepreneur. I believe your first startup was a software business. Tell us about how your vast experience shapes your thinking today.
Sure. Well, I'm an odd egg, as you might say in English, because I've been doing a lot of different things. And actually, every job I took it in spite of not having any experience in that field, and maybe because of that too, because I want to learn, I want to grow. That's why I went into acting after finishing high school. I wanted to, do something that I really enjoy and like being with people, interacting, and psychology is very interesting to me too. But then after acting school, I went into business. So I didn't found a company right away. I actually started working for different companies in hardware, software, politics, including startups and one of the top 10 corporations in the world, Visa, which was my last step in the career when I said, okay, I think that's enough. I think I've seen enough. I think it's time to do more things, actually working with other startups, helping other people, and doing things that matter to me and my family and the world. Which is why I started experimenting and doing software. Obviously, software is the easy thing, right? You can find people who can code very easily and cheaply, and you can just get things done. But I wasn't super excited in the end because when you talk to people about software, you usually want to show something, and when it's in development, it's not really exciting to see a piece of code or like a backend SaaS fintech stuff. It's not exciting for people. And the real problems are happening at homes and at work, and not, you know, in these in-between things. So this is when I met David, essentially, when he showed me the thing he was working on, which looked very much different from what it is right now. But I believed in the vision, and I said, look, we have the same foundation for, you know, we have kids, we are sustainable, we're working on projects that are supposed to, you know, improve the world in some sort of sense. And that's how we came together over 2 years ago and started working on this full time. And here we are now.
So what inspired you to start Heatle? When did the idea come to you, and how long did it take to get it off the ground? Can you also give us a bit of information about how it actually works? Yes, of course. I mean, the idea behind Heatle is actually quite old. It's from 1997 when a German company came up with the idea of, you know, putting a stick into your cup and heating it up via induction, which was super innovative back in the days. But it turned out that even this company, which is a big German company, couldn't make it work, because making induction work the way that it does with Heatle is incredibly difficult. It's not like taking a, you know, cooktop and just making it smaller. It's very, very different, which was a big challenge for every company that tried to come up with a solution for that. And David is the technical co-founder. And he is also just like me. He's experimenting, he's trying different things, and he likes a good challenge. So he took it on, and there were many companies out there trying to do that. There were startups that failed. You know, they were successful commercially, but then failed to develop the technology. There was a huge corporation that tried to do it, I think, in 2017. They also failed despite all the money. But we succeeded because we were perseverant, and we said, okay, this is the solution the world needs, not for commercial purposes, but because it's really important to give people choice and an alternative eventually. And we were the first to succeed to actually develop the thing that works, which I can demonstrate to you, which is, it's so simple. And that's the benefit of having a hardware company. You can actually show what you're doing instead of just talking about it, right? Shall we do that? Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it in action.
Cool, let's go. So this is our show kitchen where we, you know, invite people and demonstrate the technology that we're working on. And this is the device. That's the Heatle. It's small and slick and beautiful. And this device, let me plug it in and show you that it's real. There you go. And this device is designed to heat any liquid inside of any container that you choose. Basically, you can choose containers. As you can see, we're experimenting with different things, even baby bottles. It doesn't matter, no matter what material you use, plastics, paper. I can take this if you like, just so you can see how it works. You put it on here. Let's take some water so you can see the water bubbles. There we go. And what you do then is basically you select the mode or temperature. Basically, you go into power mode for water, and then you select the target temperature over here. Let's say it's, I don't know, 85 degrees. And then it's looking for the wand. You basically take this. That's a smart magic wand, which has a temperature sensor inside and Bluetooth. So it's measuring the data and shuts off at the right time. And you select the right disc. Let's take the biggest one here. It's magnetic. Then you put it into the container. And what happens then, it starts heating with very high efficiency.
This is super cool. I bet Harry Potter wishes he had a one like that.
That's right. That's why we call it a magic wand, because there is nothing like it in the world. It's the first device that can do that. And there is another cool thing that I can show to you as well, which is basically the same thing but under a different surface, which is really cool because sometimes you don't have space in the kitchen, or if you want to integrate it in different environments like a cafe, a restaurant, or a hotel, you probably don't want to have devices standing around. So what you do is basically you put the thing on a designated area on a kitchen top. It could be made of any material, stone, wood, it doesn't matter. And then we don't have a user interface for that yet, so I'll turn it on physically. And then you basically, hold on, let's check the magic. You put it over here, and it starts heating right on the surface.
That's amazing. That's super cool. We love that. I was going to say, we've seen a couple of demonstration videos with it actually built into the work surface, right? That looks so cool, so minimalistic. And is that commercially available, or Amazing. And what about the other side? Like, how portable is Heatle?
Well, Heatle is super portable. I mean, it's very small. It's the smallest induction hob in the world. It's the smallest. We don't use it for cooking just yet. So we really want to use it for liquids, for beverages, for like smaller things in the beginning. And then we'll extend it to like pro versions where you can actually cook in long term. But I mean, I can lift it up. It is, it's made in Germany. So that's really high quality stuff. We built it in Berlin. It weighs around 1.5 kilograms. So when you touch it, it's like, oh yeah, I feel it. It's not just empty, cheap stuff. It's high quality stuff inside. You can take it anywhere. You can take it on vacations if you have a baby or a family. You don't have to, worry about that. You can heat any liquid, any soup, baby milk, cocoa. So yeah, you're flexible now.
Yeah, I'm now like seeing in the future someone carrying around this Heatle, right, and then not having to worry about knowing if there's a place where they can warm their baby milk up with. They'd have to worry about a kettle somewhere, or I think that's remarkable because you're not having to lug around this big container that you then fill with liquid. So, it's amazing. Wonderful work there. We're super excited to get our hands on one. So how has the innovation landscape throughout Berlin helped facilitate the success of Heatle so far?
Well, it's difficult to say, because I think every innovation starts with the founders being, convinced of the benefits of the innovation itself. So I can't say that the community in Berlin is the reason why we've succeeded, of course, but it was helpful. The thing, I would like to say is basically it's very difficult for any sort of hardware startup, especially in the B2C industry, to move ahead. So to get funding, to get users, to get the right place. We're in the only space in Berlin, it's called Motion Lab, where you can actually build hardware products. Everything else, like WeWork, it's software focused. So you cannot work there. You cannot just drill or, weld, do that kind of stuff. But here in Motion Lab, I know it looks different. We have the most beautiful room in the whole space because it's a showroom. But it's made possible for us to actually 3D print different things like this shape. The case that you can see is 3D printed. So the mass production case will come in 2 weeks, actually. But we are experimenting, and we need to be fast, and we need to build things and break things. And so this space specifically was a huge help. But the community, there isn't many startups that do hardware that you can actually talk to, unfortunately.
Those interested in more sustainable technology in the home are sure to be early adopters of the Heatle. But for Heatle to become the first real alternative to the trusted kettle, what will be your approach to grab the attention of those in the early and late majority?
Very good question. I mean, what we did is we can strategize a lot, we can think about things a lot, and I think the best thing is we've done with Heatle is not just talking about the idea of making it, is to go ahead and actually do it. And we did the same thing with the marketing side, because everybody was like, yeah, it's a great device, but is actually anyone going to buy it? It's expensive, sort of, if you compare it just to plain kettle. Are you going to find enough customers? And in February, we went ahead and we did a pre-sale. It's like a crowdfunding, but self-hosted, so with real contracts and real payments on our website, on heatle.de, and we ran a couple of ads throughout January. So basically making people aware, look, there is something coming up that looks like this, that works like this. just to experiment, to see what people say. We've never actually gone super public with this before. And we had fantastic results after that, actually mind-blowing. If you consider that we've spent only 30,000 euros on advertisement over a month, we made almost €1 million in gross revenue over a weekend when the pre-sale was running. So that's an insane return on investment, which shows that people are really excited and engaged and want to support this technology. Because, as I said before, there is no alternative. You can only buy a kettle or some very expensive device. It's like a dispenser of hot water, but it's not efficient or it's not sustainable anyway. So there is no sustainable and simple solution to heat your liquids, and we're bringing the first to market. And we've proven that people want it, and people are super excited about this too.
How have you seen consumer behavior change over the course of the pandemic?
What we've seen is that people spend a lot more time at home, especially with a lot of people they usually don't see throughout the day normally, like kids. In our case, we've spent a lot more time with our kids because the kindergartens are closed. So you basically start looking around and realizing the different problems you have in your household. Like some people started cleaning out things or just optimizing or rebuilding the kitchen or the other rooms. And people just spend more time with the technology and the other people, and you just start realizing how, inefficient and how, let's say, even bad or outdated the technology is that we have, especially in the kitchen. And we've seen it with people who are sitting there making coffee, work from home. Let's say people work from home, you drink coffee and the coffee gets cold. What do? You pour it out, make fresh coffee. With a heater, a lot of people are excited about the opportunity to actually go and reheat your coffee that you have. Could be in Starbucks, like with this integrated version that I showed. Could be on your heater that's standing right next to you, because in the future, your heater will do a lot more than it does right now. Like it could charge your phone, it could make food for you, like could boil eggs. And there's so many things coming. It's just the beginning. And again, if you are at home, there is a lot of benefits for you because the heater makes your life simpler and it's really enjoyable to use as well.
And there is one of my bugbears in the past was one of those, say, filter drip coffees that you see in a lot of the offices, and they tend to burn, and that coffee tastes horrible after you burn it. So I'm guessing with a heater, you'll keep it at the right temperature without burning it and making it taste horrible.
Yeah, we haven't tried yet to go into the coffee business so far. A lot of people come to us, even people who go to professional coffee competitions. They email us and say, I love this, it looks beautiful, I want to use it. And we openly say this is not a coffee device because the coffee market is so saturated. You can buy literally everything from any price range. But we're focusing more on liquids in general and water, of course, for tea. So I cannot tell you from experience whether it's much better or as good, as using other things. Mm-hmm. The benefit is you basically measure temperature all the time. And we got to be clear, temperature measurement is very relative, no matter what kind of device you use. For example, if you take a kettle, and you have kettles, sometimes you can select the temperature. So let's say you make 80 degrees in your kettle. What do then? You pour it into a cup, and the cup is normally cold, which means you think you have 80, but you are actually at 65 after 15 seconds. And then you put your tea in there, and then if it's really important to you, this is there is no great way of having the perfect temperature. It's always very relative. So in our case, we measure it just from within. And because we heat up the container, like the cup, in the process, then there is no temperature drop once you start consuming it, because you can take the cup and drink. You don't have to refill it.
Yeah. And consistently reheating it over, say let it go cold again. You don't have to keep reheating it back up using more energy. So great stuff there. What are your biggest barriers you're facing at the moment? And how are you looking to unlock them?
Well, the biggest barrier right now is the fundraising, basically, because we have made a lot of revenue, of course, but it's not enough to go through the current development steps to go into mass production because it's very expensive. Once that's rolling, let's say next year, once everything is done and we're certified and everything works, then it's much simpler, of course, and we also have lower costs. But now we need to make 20 devices, which will be ready in April, and we need to make 100. Then we give them to users. We need to collect data and see how people behave, how it works. Then we need to certify it, go make 1,000, and then 10,000. And all of these steps are quite expensive because, for example, if you make 20 devices now, we're paying, 2,000 euros per device because it's a prototype. It's like a one-off thing. And it gets much cheaper, of course, the more we build. But so this is why we're fundraising right now with angel investors to make a nice investment round so we can proceed and bring it to market, and then the opportunities are basically endless.
Who do you think has the biggest impact on fixing the climate issues? The transformers or the innovators?
I guess the Transformers is not the movie.
No, Transformers being the big companies and the innovators being more like startups, entrepreneurs.
Well, if I had to choose between the two, I couldn't, because I think the innovation starts with the entrepreneurs, and then somebody has to take over at some point and just make sure that it scales or it becomes stable or distributed. And I think then the big companies take over. It's how startups grow, and then they make an exit, and then someone bigger takes over. So it's very difficult to say, but being a person who worked in startups and corporations before, I know that innovations almost never come from corporations, just from because of different reasons, obviously, which are natural. So I know a lot of people who leave a corporation to make an innovation that the same corporation then buys from the startup, because it's much easier to innovate outside. And this is how we've done it. This is why the big corporations that came up with the idea and then tried to build it failed, because you need so much, and it's not just money. It's not just, the idea itself. So I think sustainability per se is a job of everybody, including the consumer, because there is a lot of innovations out there that are really not the great user experience. And I've seen it myself. For example, in Berlin, you have these stores where you can buy stuff which is unwrapped or unpacked, which makes sense. Why should you pack everything in plastic? But then you think about it, and if you want to just go and buy noodles or pasta or something else spontaneously, you don't have the container with you. You have to buy the container again, or it just becomes a hassle in the process. So it's for a very, very niche group when the user experience is limited, or if it's, let's say, it's limiting you more than your habit from before. And I don't think you can drive world-scale innovation when the thing you propose as a solution is more complicated, or it's just annoying, or something else. And this is why we are also seeing this progress with Heatle, because the solution we've proposed, it looks beautiful, it works great, it's very flexible, and I think that's the way to go.
What would you like other companies to learn from Heatle?
If we're talking about startups in general, I think also as entrepreneurs, it's to never give up. I know a lot of startups who come up with an idea and 2 weeks later they give up because nobody wanted to invest, or they lost interest, or they don't think they can do it. I think you have to be convinced of what you're doing. You have to do your homework, obviously, and then to keep going until you're done. That was one of the proposals, or let's say it's one of the agreements between David and myself. When we started, we said, we're not going into crowdfunding 2 years before now, basically, when we had nothing. It was a prototype, looked very badly. I said, we want to, integrity is very important. I think transparency, integrity, especially for sustainable startups. So you want to, put your money where your mouth is, right? You want to show that you can get things done, and only then people will start trusting you. And this is what we've done. I said, David, for the next 2 years, we're not going to fundraise. We're not going to, show it to people. We will get it to work the way it's supposed to be sold, like what I've shown you before. It is a small device. You can plug it into the wall, and it works. And it took us a lot of money and effort, but only then you can actually go ahead and fundraise at proper conditions, And I think people just give up too quickly.
Mm. What are you most hopeful for when visualizing a sustainable future for both people and planet?
Well, that's a difficult one, because I'm trying to, combine being an optimist and the realist. And sometimes basically, when you start getting to know the nature of people, or let's say the majority of people, it's very difficult to imagine positive change, even though it always happens, but it always happens with a minority that just spreads the word and gives people, hope and a vision. So it's really hard to say. The question was what I'm hopeful for, right? What I think I hope for. Well, I hope that people just become more, self-aware and more. I think it's the awareness. It's what vegans do when they try to make sure that you understand what you're actually eating. So meat is not like the beautiful thing you think it is. Or it used to be the same with milk, and the same thing goes in our case with electricity, e-waste, and I'm hopeful that people just open up their minds and start to see the whole big picture, because when you make a wrong decision today, it has an impact, maybe not in your house, not in your country, but it does somewhere else in the world. And I think it's our job to open people's eyes and just show them what's actually happening and propose solutions. And I really hope that more people join the race and just start proposing solutions that people love and will jump over, even though they might be more expensive. But in the long run, I think we're all going to win from this.
Vashtang, thanks so much for that. Now for the quick fire round. Try to answer as quick as possible.
Okay.
How do you define sustainability?
Sustainability for me is a recurring efficiency. I could explain more, but I think it's basically being efficient over and over again and not losing too much energy to the sides.
What's the best business book you've read?
Most recently, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
What's your best sustainable hack?
What do you mean by that?
So previous guests in the past have recommended carrying around a reusable coffee cup. Others have said using the peels from potatoes and carrots and parsnips, rather than throwing them away, wash them and then bake them in the oven and you have vegetable crisps.
Interesting. There are so many of them. I would say, it's really difficult to choose, because we're doing so many different things. I'm thinking of something interesting, the potato thing actually we're doing as well. I think it's using less.
Using less.
Well, using less in general, of course. I think, because it's still a big issue in Germany, is basically using less plastic bags or just one-off bags, even if they're paper. You can buy a bag that you can use over and over again and put it in your car somewhere in the pocket. And that's the one thing that made a big difference for me. I usually just take a carton of stuff in the grocery store and I put stuff in there, and so I don't have to buy a bag. And then I dispose of the carton because it has to be disposed of anyway. So I think that's what do you call it? Carrying containers, whatever, just getting rid of the plastic ones.
What other sustainable product would you urge others to look at?
I would say our fellow German startup called Everdrop. What they do is they turn water into magical heating, into magical cleaning liquid, so you don't have to buy bottles of cleaning liquids.
And that was Everdrop.
Everdrop.
Great. And finally, this question slipped in from one of our team actually here at Kind Community. What's your favorite tea?
I would say PG Tips. When I make it to London, I like to buy it.
Amazing. Please tell us where we can discover Heatle and connect with you.
Well, you can discover Heatle on our website, heatle.de. Heatle like the Beatles, but with heat. And you can pre-purchase, of course. So this year, the pre-sale is still running. We will develop and distribute the product by the end of the year, before Christmas. That's our goal. And you can reach me anytime on LinkedIn, via email. You can drop us a message at hi@heatle.de and just be in touch. Let us know what you think.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. See you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you. Take care.
If you're inspired by my conversation with Vashtang, please remember to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with anyone that you think would love to join our community. Remember to live what you listen and to put action into what you've learned today. Knowledge isn't power, it's potential power. You must use it to be powerful. Together, we can make the sustainable attainable. I'm Gian Novelli, and this is the Kind Community Show.